the title of my presentation or talk today is I Wish I Knew Then What I Know Now. And this is about living with a young person with a disability for 17 years now. Amber was 17 in April. And thinking about the impact of my parenting through that time, and the impact of having parenting siblings, and how my parenting may have affected them, but also a general how siblings cope with living with a child with a disability. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my own personal story, and some of you may know that or have heard it in various other things before, but I'm also going to bring in some research, and I've got a little clip from a TED talk which I will play later on in the presentation. So who am I? So as Natalie's just said, I am a parent of Amber. That's her there a couple of years ago. That's us at a family wedding. Adrian in the middle, Cameron with the dark hair, that's probably best to say because my left and right's not too good. Nathan with the blonde, and obviously me. I'm a social work manager. I decided to retrain as a social worker in 2010. And that was as a direct result of having a child with a disability. And for the last few years, I've been specialising in childhood trauma, and I work a lot with children that are looked after, so children that are in foster care and have experienced adverse childhood experiences and trauma and loss, etc. So our story, so little Cameron there, Amber there, Nathan. So Cameron was 6 when Amber was born. Nathan was 8. They both knew that she was going to be a girl. We found out, I think, quite early, about when I was about 28 weeks. She was very big when she was born, but very floppy. And Cameron, as you can see in that picture, wrapping his arms around her, absolutely idolised her. And from the onset, I think, of when she was born, it was almost like he was a little dad. He just absolutely idolised her. He used to lie on the sofa with her on his chest, and he was quite small and she was quite big. And it was when she was 12 weeks old that she had her first seizure. And at the time, it didn't feel like a seizure. She was in bed with me in the morning, and her arms and legs just went up really slowly. She was asleep, and I touched her, and it stopped. But throughout the day, it happened about 5 or 6 times. So I called the GP. The GP told me to go down to the doctors. She was sat in a car seat, and she fell asleep. And as he came out to call us in to the consultation room, her arms went up again, and he immediately thought that was some kind of seizure. And that's where the story kind of begins, really. Amber wasn't diagnosed with CDKL5 until just before her 4th birthday. And during those first 4 years, there were a number of diagnoses or potential diagnoses that we were given. Obviously, the primary diagnosis was epilepsy. But what happened is, lots of parents that are on this call will recognise, is that when your child presents with seizures, you're then taken away from the family home because you have to stay in hospital with that child. So I think as soon as she started having seizures, it was I was taken away from the family home, and we had never been in that environment before in terms of special needs, epilepsy. They were talking about significant metabolic conditions, and it was the age of the internet and Dr. Google and all of those things, and the panic just really set in for me. So for Cameron and Nathan, they were left quite a lot with my parents because my husband worked. I didn't understand what was going on. They didn't understand what was going on. And I think that probably was a really difficult place for them to be. It was a really difficult place for me to be. And I just wanted to shut myself away. As they got older, she got the diagnosis, like I said, just before her 4th birthday. Cameron, particularly those first couple of years, you know, continued with that kind of paternal role, you know, really taking care of her, absolutely idolized her. He was a bright schoolboy, had aspirations of, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a neurologist, and I'm going to cure my sister. And that kind of went on really until he was about 11 or 12, and round about the sort of 12 and a half, 13 mark, he just changed. And it just seemed to be overnight, this lovely, caring little boy that I had, still loved his sister, you know, unconditionally, but his relationship with me changed, and he was no longer showing empathy like he had done before. It felt like we had a lot of empathy as a family for each other, but that seemed to change. He became secretive, he was not sleeping, he had anxiety. I remember one time Amber was admitted to hospital because she was periodic breathing, and what that is where babies do it quite a lot, and it's a normal reaction, but what she was doing was taking very deep breaths, but only 2. So she would take a deep breath, and then 12 seconds later she would take another breath. So it was it was worrying it for a time, but I didn't explain it to him. In his 12-year-old mind, he thought that she was flatlining, which, you know, periodic breathing, flatlining are 2 very significant different things. So as he went through adolescence, more and more withdrawn, getting into trouble at school, not doing his schoolwork, using recreational drugs. And then when he was about 17, he talked a lot about hearing voices. So for him, it was sort of self-loathing voices, suicidal ideation. He also had difficulties with, every time that I went away and being part of the CDKL5 community, the advocacy community, I go a lot, I travel a lot, worried that I was going to die in a plane crash. Anytime anything happened with Amber, he was worried that she was going to die, and he would obviously regularly communicate to me that if she died, then he would kill himself because he wouldn't be able to live without her. And it was tough. It was really, really tough. And in contrast to that, Nathan, 8 years old when she was born, kind of ignored her for the first 2 years, and when he got to about 10, it was almost like this switch on moment. You know, she's going to need me, and I'm going to provide for her. What do you need me to do, Mum? What do I need to do to help make our lives better or easier? He was a very shy child, and he went down the route of attending young carers. He got into air cadets, and we used to go to a children's hospice, and in the UK, children's hospices are used for family respite. And he really, really enjoyed going there and seeing other children. But Cameron, on the other hand, felt the fact that, you know, you were in a hospice, and generally when we were there would be a child that would be terminal, and that was too much for him. And when I look back now, it's almost like we were reinforcing that trauma for him. So things got really difficult for Cameron. I can say I went through 8 years of hell. I don't know how I coped. I had lots of thoughts myself about, you know, am I going to lose 2 children? Is that going to be my reality? But at the start of lockdown, things got really difficult, and he went sick from work, and he was 22 at this point. And I said, look, Cam, you need to do something. You need to seek help and the decision in his hands. He called the GP, went to the GP. The GP referred him to the community mental health team. And within the UK, that's a higher level of service. That's where you need support with a diagnosable mental health condition. So it was quite difficult for him because he was having not face-to-face, online sort of psycho support from a clinical psychiatrist. But what was interesting is that when he was just turned 22, just turned 22, he got diagnosed with ADHD and post-traumatic stress disorder. And the post-traumatic stress disorder was as a direct result of the seizures that he'd witnessed, the health anxiety, and all of those things that he'd experienced growing up as in a family with a child with special needs. And like I say, he absolutely adores her, and it was just, I think he internalized a lot of things and wasn't able to cope in the same way that his brother could. So that's our story. And when I think about that in my own sort of job, over the last couple of years, I've done a lot of training around trauma. And thinking about this presentation today, I thought, I'd have a look online, see what the research is. And there is a large body of evidence that is growing in terms of the lived experience of siblings, of people with disability and chronic illness. So as you can see there, there's a research article by Hanvi and colleagues that was published earlier this year in January, and it was they interviewed 16 individuals, UK and Northern Ireland, and there was one from Germany. The participants age range was between 20 and 68, and it mentions there in the title, you can see glass children, the lived experience of siblings of people with disability and chronic illness. And I'll talk a little bit more about glass children in a minute, because I hadn't heard of the term, and it was enlightening when I did discover what the term meant, but also I think filled me with a little bit more guilt. But I'll come on to that in a second. So this research, they did semi-structured interviews with the participants, and they found 4 themes. So the 4 themes that are identified there. So feeling invisible to others during social interactions. And that, for me, when I look at how Cameron was, any time that we used to go out, he would take over. He would be the one that was picking Amber out of the car seat, putting her in the wheelchair, pushing her along. He wanted to be seen. When I look back now, he wanted to be seen. And I always used to think it was lovely that he did that, but found it a little bit odd. The second theme was the psychological difficulties due to the internalisation of family roles and life conditions. And that is how people internalise it. So some children, some siblings will be straight A students. They'll say, yes, I'm okay. They will appear that like they're doing well and well adjusted, but actually they internalise a lot of their feelings. And they experience guilt and self-blame for not being able to offer constant support to siblings or due to leaving independent lives. So that's around, well, my Amber can't do this and she can't do that, and I feel guilty for that. For Cameron, I think some of that he doesn't want for her to leave an independent life from him. So whilst she's going to be with us for as long as we're able to care for her safely, in his 23-year-old mind at the moment is that if something happens to us, he will live with her and she will live with him, and he will take on that caring role. And then the centrality of social support, so the siblings' inability to understand their own needs And I think that links to identity, really, because I had an identity before I had Amber. You know, I had 2 kids. I was in the RAF. I'm from a big family. So I had my identity, and I suppose my identity has changed. But when you're a sibling to a child with a disability, your identity is shaped very differently to if you didn't have a sibling with a disability. So turning to the glass child, and some people on the call may find this quite difficult, because I think I found it quite difficult. And I had a few definitions in here earlier, and I thought, I'm not going to put that up because it sounds so awful, almost like us as parents, it's our fault, but it's not our fault, because generally we are going through something significant. And I think even the best parent in the world wouldn't be able to parent in a way that didn't have an impact on those siblings. So the glass child, nobody can really understand where it came from in terms of the definition. But this is what just essentially what a glass children are. So glass children have siblings who are mentally ill, disabled, present with challenging behaviours such as, that should say addiction, not addition. Glass children are looked through by their parents, and that's quite a hard thing, I think, for us as parents to take, because I think a lot of us would say, well, that's not the case. The sick child gets most of the attention, which, you know, you would expect that. Glass children are the good kids who go out their way not to disappoint. And I think to some extent, in terms of my experience with Cameron, that's how he was until he hit his teens, and things got very difficult for him. So as it says there, they are seen as the child who needs less, and this is a godsend to the parents who are constantly stamping out physical, behavioural, emotional, and sometimes literal fires from the unhealthy sibling. You know, I remember Amber was having 75 seizures a day just before a diagnosis, and I see on Facebook today, you know, all the posts about raising awareness for CDD, and even today parents communicate how difficult it is seeing their children having a seizure. And I suppose imagine how our children feel, siblings seeing that. So Alicia Arenas has done a series of TED Talks, and she describes it really well. And I'm going to play a clip from her in a minute. And it's difficult to hear. It's the clip that I'm going to show is directed at parents and communities. But she described how, you know, there's so many more negative and potential outcomes of growing up with a child with a disability, but how even the smallest thing, the smallest change can alter that and have a positive outcome. And that's echoed, that is echoed in the research, which the links will be shared if this presentation is shared with you all. So I'm just going to play this clip, and I will need to stop it because it goes on. So yeah, slight trigger warning, just warning you there.
For you to hear, but please hear this. You cannot take for granted the emotional health of your children. Every emotion that you feel, whether it's pain, whether it's anger, frustration, fear, concern, crises of faith that you are experiencing because of your special needs child, your healthy child feels all of it too, but with the coping skills of a child. So when you ask your healthy child, "Are you okay?" and they say, yes, mommy, I'm fine, do not believe them. They are not fine. How can they be fine if they are experiencing what you are experiencing as a child? And folks, I get it. I saw what my parents went through. They didn't have the capacity. They didn't have the tools. They were barely making it on their own. So parents, find a place for your child to get help. You send them to counseling. You find a support group for them. Find a safe place where they can go and talk about their feelings and get some tools so they know how to cope and they know what to do. Because otherwise, the patterns that they learn are going to repeat themselves through adulthood. That's thing one for parents. The second thing I want to say to parents is, make sure that your children know that you love them unconditionally. And that doesn't just mean telling them I love you. It means they understand that they are valued just by the simple fact that they are breathing and alive. Because you see, we believe our value is based on how well we perform, on how well we take care of the people in our family. And 3, for parents, I know this is tough. I did not spend time alone by myself with my mother and father until I was 13 years of age, and I needed it. A glass child's life is all about that sibling. Find a way to spend time alone with that child without the special needs sibling there. Community, gosh, we need you. These families need you. I'm going to tell you what not to do because this is something that happened to me. Well-meaning adults would see me when I was 6 or 7, and they'd say to me, Alicia, you need to be a good girl for mommy and daddy. They're taking care of Mario. They're taking care of David. So you do whatever you can to make mommy and daddy happy. And I did. And I did. The brightest spots in my childhood when people outside of our family invited me into their homes, took me with them on vacation. You know what? Not even that. When they just paid attention to me, when they came over to the house and they asked me, how I was doing. I have a friend who helped with a fundraiser.
Powerful. Makes you think, doesn't it? So Alicia's story is that she has a brother with severe autism, and her youngest brother was born and developed a rare form of leukemia. So her parents were dealing with an awful lot. So how can you spot the signs a child is struggling? Well, what Alicia says there is sometimes, you can't. You can ask and they can say that they're okay. They can appear okay. Like I said earlier, they can be straight A students and doing really well. But I think in my case, in the later years, this kind of sums up what I was seeing in my own son. So he was angry, he had difficulty sleeping, and the difficulty sleeping, I think some of that led to the recreational drugs. So he was using that to try and sleep. He was very, very defiant, very avoidant, very negative, and all of that was directed at me, really. He could not have a conversation with me. Anything that I said, it was like that I had become the source of his anger. So it was really, really difficult. In terms of supporting, what I know now through the trauma work that I've done is that empathy goes an awful long way. And I think we all need empathy in our lives. Getting alongside your children, you're not alone. I'm here with you. When you connect with your child or your children, they feel that unconditional love that Alicia was talking about. And when they do tell you how they're feeling, reiterate the fact that you're really glad that they told you that, because actually that's the first stage of healing. And we can heal from trauma. acceptance. I mean, acceptance is difficult, isn't it? Especially when you have a child with a disability, because we go through those grief stages, and we probably dip in and out of acceptance ourselves many times. I know I have, but it is about allowing yourself to be able to let your child know that it's okay, that they are loved, that they're valued, and yes, that in the middle, staying with the uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. Seeing your sister sees many times a day is uncomfortable. I remember one day when she was on the ketogenic diet, we traveled to school, and she vomited in his hands, and a little 8-year-old going into school with vomit in his hands and having to wash was really difficult. And when they are telling you difficult things, thank you for telling me. And that's kind of how I practice now. I mean, he's 23. He doesn't always want to kiss his mum, unfortunately. Alicia said in her talk about support groups. In the UK, we have young carer groups. I know that across the world, there are sibling organisations that work with children and adults. And ensuring you have the wider community network that is outside of the home. Again, what Alicia talked on about the fact that, she really enjoyed having, people coming into the house or into their network and how are you, feeling valued, and spending one-to-one time regularly with your child. What I don't think she said in the clip there, but she was 13 years old was the first time that she spent time with her mum and dad alone without her brothers. And be open for connection and conversation. When we're open for connection, the conversation comes, and it allows children to feel safe and to be able to discuss how they feel. And it's okay to sit there and cry with them. It's a hard life that we're living, and this, and I'm probably going to get emotional in a minute, but this is a tough topic. But I think Alicia puts it really well about, don't underestimate the emotional health of your child. So if I knew then what I know now, what would I do differently? It's not just about me. It's not just about, it hasn't just happened to me and Adrian, my husband. It's happened to us all. And I think once we recognize that, and it's hard in the beginning when you have when they're so ill and you just don't know what's wrong with them. But for me, with my children, it would be, I see you, I value you, I've got you, and I love you. And I would hope that they feel that now. I'm a very different person to what I was probably even 5 years ago. Because I've had to look within myself. I was very much in denial. But I have dug deep, and I think that whilst Amber, she's with us, we're thankful that she's with us. The boys absolutely idolise her, as well as their partners. I can't help but feel a little bit guilty about how I didn't recognise how I was. I was preoccupied with starting charities, with support groups, and that took me away. That, when you think about the glass child and the parents seeing through the child, I often think about the times where they both would say, "Mum, you're not listening to me. Mum, you're not listening to me." And I kind of need to come to terms with that. And I'm on a journey, and I think I'm getting there. So that's what I would do differently. It's not just about me. It's happened to us all. And there's the resources, and thank you for listening, and sorry for getting a bit emotional.